Many have called it genocide. Now, two soldiers from Myanmar may have provided the evidence needed to bring a case to the International Criminal Court. There are reports that two men are in The Hague in what could be a breakthrough in the search for justice for the killing of Muslim Rohingya. Human rights group Fortify Rights says it's seen taped confessions from two soldiers who say they deserted from the Myanmar army. In the lengthy videos, the men admitted to massacres, rapes and the destruction of Rohingya villages. The rights group says they've also named other soldiers and senior commanders involved in the crimes. Well, let's cross over to The Hague, where Step Vassen is live for us. Step, we're getting reports that the two men are at least in the care of the International Criminal Court. They're in The Hague somewhere. What more do we know about where they are and what's happening?
Yes, exactly. We are hearing reports that they might have arrived here on Monday. Officially, the court denies that they are in custody, which is probably now the case is that they're in a witness protection program here at the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office, I have to explain, is independent from the court. So far, there hasn't been any arrest warrant against these two individuals from Myanmar. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, has a significant protection program for witnesses. So if they are here, it's very likely that the court has helped them get a visa, travel to the Netherlands, and also provide them with assistance during their stay here. But the prosecutor's office says they can't confirm any of this information while this investigation is still ongoing. And they also urge everyone not to speculate, because you have to understand this is a very sensitive case. It's a crime against humanity. Of course, what happened in Myanmar has been described as genocide. And this, if this is true, these would be the two first testimonies from people within the military from Myanmar to come out. So there is, of course, a lot of concern for the safety of these two people, the two former soldiers. So the court and the prosecutor's office is not confirming if they're actually here in The Hague right now.
Step, bring us up to date with what we know about where the case is at the moment.
Well, the case was stuck for quite a long time, the investigation, because Myanmar is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, which is the basis of this International Criminal Court. But they have found a way out of this. Last year, the court has ruled that they have jurisdiction. They found a way because Bangladesh is a signatory to the Rome Statute, and part of the crimes that happened in Myanmar were happening in Bangladesh as well. For example, the deportations. There were lots of forced deportations. Hundreds of thousands of ethnic Rohingya, the minority in Myanmar, were forcefully deported to Bangladesh. So the crossing of the border is a fact that the court now considers an event that has happened in a country that has signed the Rome Statute. So that's why this case now has been speeding up since last November. The court has urged the investigation to continue. And if they have these two former military men, we don't know exactly their position, but if they are, they say they were involved, they have given a very detailed account of what they did and also who was with them, also the high-ranking officers, then of course this would be an enormous boost for this investigation.
It's Step Vassen bringing us up to date from The Hague. I want to bring in Mohammed Jamjoom because he's been covering the Rohingya crisis extensively. He's joining me now. Well, one of the things that we have to remember about all of this is that we actually just don't know very much. There are going to be a lot of questions about who these men are, whether or not they are actually from Myanmar and so on.
You're absolutely right, Rob. And right now we have a lot more questions than we do answers. Of course, Fortify Rights is saying that in these videos, these two soldiers confess to crimes of rape, of burning villages, and that they name senior commanders, that they go up the chain of the Tatmadaw, the Myanmar military, those who were present when this crackdown was going on, which started August 25th, 2017 in Rakhine State against the Rohingya ethnic minority. But it's really going to be interesting to find out where exactly these soldiers are in that chain, how high they are up the chain. I mean, if this is verified, and if the information that these soldiers are providing is credible, this is potentially huge. This could be something that really acts as a catalyst when it comes to potentially bringing charges of genocide against Myanmar in the International Criminal Court. We must remember there is a case at the International Court of Justice that has been brought by the Gambia, and now Canada and the Netherlands have joined that case against Myanmar, charging Myanmar with genocide, and there have been provisional measures ordered by the court, by the ICJ, in that case, asking Myanmar's government to make sure that evidence is preserved, and also demanding rather Myanmar's government to give them reports every 6 months or so as to what is going on in Rakhine State. But at the ICC, where there was a preliminary investigation, and then last November it became an official investigation by the prosecutor's office, this is really something that could change as far as what is going on there and how they approach a potential case against Myanmar at the ICC. Rob?
Mohammed, as we were talking about earlier, the fact that you have covered this case means you have a lot of contacts among the Rohingya in Bangladesh and elsewhere. In your estimation, how great is the risk, do you think, that there might be some sort of reprisal against Rohingya who are still in Myanmar as a result of this?
This is something that is always on the minds, really foremost in the minds of Rohingya refugees who are in Bangladesh. They are constantly worried about what is going on with their relatives back in Rakhine State, because there still are hundreds of thousands of Rohingya in Rakhine State. And in fact, you've had UN officials and many rights organizations who have said in the past that they are concerned that there is an ongoing genocide being perpetrated by Myanmar's military against the Rohingya in Rakhine State. That means they believe that this genocide didn't just happen in 2017 in Rakhine State. They believe it is happening even today. And so Rohingya refugees that you speak with in the camps are always concerned about what might happen, about the reprisals that their relatives might face, about the fact that they don't hear very often from their relatives because there has been an internet shutdown for quite some time in Rakhine State. So yes, they are concerned, and this is something that they're going to be worried about when and if they speak to the media about these developments, because it's something that they carry with them because of the trauma that they faced when they were in Rakhine State, and because of the trauma they fear that their relatives are still facing in Rakhine State.
Mohammed, thank you very much indeed. Antonio Mulvey is the Executive Director of Legal Action Worldwide. Now, she was in Bangladesh as a UN investigator at the height of the crisis, and she's joining us live from Amman in Jordan by Skype. Thank you very much indeed for giving us your time. You saw the end result of the Rohingya refugees who were making their way to Bangladesh, as we mentioned, at the height of this crisis. In your estimation, if these allegations turn out to be true, this evidence turns out to be verified, how significant is this?
Thank you, Rob. Well, this is an astounding turn of events, and certainly when I was a UN investigator on the borders of Bangladesh, as the hundreds of thousands Rohingya poured across the border, we never thought that we would be in this situation. The stories that I listened to resonate with what we have seen from the testimonies of these two former Myanmar soldiers, that they were ordered to kill indiscriminately. They were ordered to rape, to gang rape, brutal sexual violence. And since that time, I now represent hundreds of Rohingya. Some of them are from the villages that these two former Myanmar soldiers have talked about. And I talked to them earlier today in the camps to gauge their reaction to this. And what they said was relief that the world has heard what has happened, finally, an admission from the Myanmar army, but also that turned to anger and to sorrow and thinking about their loved ones, and also the Rohingya that still remain in Myanmar.
As we were just talking about to Mohammed Jamjoom, our correspondent there, one of the key elements of this at the moment is how little we know about these men, and the fact that one would assume that their stories have at least been attempted to be checked out and verified and so on. Is it an indication of how confident the International Criminal Court feels about that evidence, that we believe these men have been transported to The Hague?
Well, Rob, it's hard to comment on that. And as we've heard, that the ICC will make no comment as to whether they have them in custody. But what do we know? Well, we've seen that their stories are said to be credible and corroborative. Now, indeed, that also resonates from the interviews and statements I have taken as a lawyer representing Rohingya. They come from the Tong Bazaar and the other villages that have been mentioned in the reports of the mass gang rape, of the killing. And also, indeed, it's stated about the clear orders, and I think this is important, from senior military commanders. And whilst they may be very low in the ranks, I think we hope that more will come forward. And there has been shown to be a clear chain of command. And also, let's just reflect back as well to International Court of Justice case, where we had on the 10th of December and the 11th of December last year, Aung San Suu Kyi herself at The Hague, defending the Myanmar army for their actions, and there was no admission. So this is really an important moment, both for the Rohingya and I think for international justice, and we hope to see that the international community as a whole will be supporting this. And we've seen that Canada and Netherlands are now joining as an intervention to the ICJ case, and let's hope that there'll be more support, I think, for the Rohingya, as we notice a crowded space in the world with what has happened with COVID, and to hear their voices and their cries for justice.
Help me out with an explanation here, because if I understand it correctly, the International Court of Justice is bringing a case which is essentially broadly aimed towards Myanmar, but the ICC has the capacity to bring action against individuals, which may mean, if I understand it correctly, that some of those senior members of the military and possibly further up in the chain whom these men have identified may be individually targeted with prosecutions. Is that accurate? We may see this going further up the chain.
You're absolutely right, Rob. Let's put it simply. The International Court of Justice is state to state. Gambia versus Myanmar. Any decision will be against the state itself. It is not a criminal prosecution against individuals. The International Criminal Court will be investigating and, we hope, prosecuting individuals. And now, if we look at the past, formerly the ICC was actually investigating and prosecuting lower down soldiers, but more recently, in their prosecutions, they have gone for senior commanders. And we hope that this will be a door to that. And of course, there are many and more numerous sanctions against senior Myanmar military.
Antonia Marvi is Executive Director of Legal Action Worldwide. We appreciate your time, ma'am. Thank you very much indeed.